Language learning is a complex cognitive, social, and psychological process through which individuals acquire the ability to understand, speak, read, and write in a language. Humans begin learning language from early childhood through natural exposure and interaction with people around them. This early learning occurs largely unconsciously as children listen to speech, recognize patterns, imitate sounds, and gradually form words and sentences. Over time, they develop an understanding of grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, and meaning through continuous communication and feedback from their environment. The process of learning a language involves several interconnected skills. Listening is usually the first ability to develop, allowing learners to recognize sounds and understand spoken messages. Speaking follows as learners begin producing words and sentences. Reading and writing develop later and require learners to understand symbols, grammar structures, and vocabulary in a more structured way. These four skills, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, work together to build overall language competence. Language learning is influenced by cognitive factors such as memory, attention, and pattern recognition. Learners store words, grammatical rules, and expressions in their memory and retrieve them when communicating. Repetition, practice, and meaningful use of language help strengthen these memory connections. Motivation also plays an important role. Learners who are interested in the language or need it for communication, education, or work tend to learn faster and more effectively. Social interaction is another key element in language learning. Communication with teachers, peers, family members, and native speakers helps learners practice the language in real situations. Through interaction, learners receive feedback, notice errors, and adjust their language use. Cultural exposure also supports language learning because language is closely connected to traditions, behaviors, and ways of thinking within a community. In addition, different learning environments shape how languages are learned. In natural settings, such as living in a community where the language is spoken, learners acquire the language through daily interaction and immersion. In classroom environments, language learning often includes formal instruction, grammar explanations, vocabulary exercises, and structured practice activities. Modern technology has also expanded learning opportunities through online courses, mobile applications, digital libraries, and multimedia resources that allow learners to practice listening, speaking, reading, and writing in interactive ways. Overall, language learning is a gradual and dynamic process that combines exposure, practice, cognitive development, and social interaction. Through continuous engagement with language in meaningful contexts, learners progressively develop fluency and the ability to communicate effectively across different situations and cultures. Language learning in early childhood is one of the most remarkable and complex achievements of human development. During the first years of life, children rapidly acquire the ability to understand and produce language without formal instruction. This process occurs naturally through interaction with caregivers, family members, and the surrounding environment. From birth, infants are exposed to sounds, rhythms, and patterns of speech, which gradually become meaningful as the brain develops the ability to recognize linguistic structures. The early childhood period, especially from birth to around 6 years of age, is considered a critical stage for language acquisition because the brain is highly flexible and responsive to linguistic input. At the beginning of life, babies communicate primarily through crying and simple vocalizations. These sounds are not yet words, but they serve as the first step toward language development. Within the first few months, infants begin to produce cooing sounds and later babbling, which include repetitive syllables such as baba or dada. Babbling plays a crucial role in language learning because it allows children to experiment with different sounds and develop control over their vocal organs. As babies listen to the speech of adults around them, they gradually start to imitate the sounds and intonation patterns they hear. Understanding language usually develops before speaking. Children begin to recognize familiar words, voices, and expressions long before they can pronounce them. By the end of the first year, many children can understand simple commands or identify common objects when they are named. Around the age of 1 year, the first meaningful words often appear. These early words usually refer to important people, objects, or needs in the child's daily life, such as mama, milk, or ball. The vocabulary at this stage is limited, but it expands quickly as the child continues to interact with others. Between the ages of 2 and 3, children experience a rapid growth in vocabulary known as the vocabulary explosion. During this stage, they may learn several new words every day. Their speech also begins to combine words into simple phrases and short sentences. Instead of saying only single words, children may say expressions like want toy or mommy come. These early sentences show that children are starting to understand the basic structure of language and the relationships between words. Social interaction plays a central role in early language learning. Conversations with parents, siblings, and caregivers provide children with continuous opportunities to hear language used in meaningful contexts. When adults speak to children, read stories, sing songs, and respond to their attempts at communication, they create a supportive linguistic environment. This interaction not only exposes children to new vocabulary, but also helps them understand how language is used to express ideas, emotions, and intentions. Cognitive development is closely linked to language learning in early childhood. As children explore their environment, they learn new concepts and associate them with words. For example, when a child sees a dog and hears the word dog, the brain begins to connect the sound of the word with the visual image and the concept of the animal. Over time, these connections become stronger, allowing children to understand more complex ideas and communicate them through language. The role of imitation and repetition is also essential. Young children often repeat words and phrases they hear from adults. This repetition helps them practice pronunciation and remember linguistic patterns. Through repeated exposure, children gradually internalize grammatical structures such as word order, verb forms, and sentence patterns. Interestingly, children often produce grammatical forms that they have never been explicitly taught, which demonstrates the brain's ability to identify patterns and generalize rules. Another important aspect of early language learning is the development of phonological awareness, which is the ability to recognize and manipulate the sounds of language. Children gradually learn to distinguish between different speech sounds and understand that words are composed of smaller sound units. This awareness later becomes an important foundation for reading and writing skills. Multilingual environments can also influence early language learning. Children who grow up in families where more than one language is spoken are capable of acquiring multiple languages simultaneously. Although their vocabulary in each individual language may sometimes appear smaller at first, they often develop strong overall linguistic abilities. Exposure to multiple languages can enhance cognitive flexibility, improve problem-solving skills, and increase cultural awareness.